I am the light of the world. This is another of Jesus' I am statements that he makes in the Gospel of John. And this is from John chapter 8, verse 12, which is where we'll look at a few verses here in John chapter 8 for a few minutes. Jesus is in the temple. He's teaching. The Pharisees and scribes, they bring in a woman caught in adultery. And after that situation, Jesus says this in John chapter 8, verse 12. Then Jesus spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. So here Jesus tells us that he is the light of the world. This is spiritual and moral light. Though the Lord did, let's give him the credit. He created light to begin with back in the physical universe, so he is really the light of the world in all ways. But here, he's speaking more of in a spiritual and moral way. Jesus brings light to every situation. He reveals both moral and immoral. Everything is made clear by the Lord. And this light is his wisdom, it's his love, it's his mercy, it's his character, it's who he is. Then, he says, if we will follow him, we will not walk in darkness. And this idea of walking, this means to live. This is the idea of living in darkness. We will not live in darkness if we follow the Lord. And this darkness that he's referring to, this is the darkness of ignorance, of not knowing the Lord. It's confusion, it's sin, it's evil, it's immorality. It's all these things that are bad for us in our hearts. Because our heart is going to be filled with something. It's going to be filled with the Lord's light, or it's going to be filled with darkness. There's really not any in between for us. So if we follow Jesus, then we will have the light of life, the light of wisdom and love and mercy. And that light will lead us to life. And this is the same life that I talked about before with like the bread of life. This is that life that means, a good physical life here. It means a spiritual life. It means eternal life. It takes us into eternity again. It leads us to that wonderful eternal life. This is that same word. And it's both the, so having this light of the Lord, following his character, this will produce a wonderful life for us, both here and both in the life to come. So as again with the bread, the light from Jesus, it brings us the best things in this life and again in the life to come. We will not be confused or deceived. We will see clearly. That's the whole idea that he's making this idea of the light. He's given them who he was teaching. Remember, he's teaching in the temple, but also us. He's given us the idea that following him, we will be able to see clearly and not be confused, not be deceived. As long as we follow him, we will be able to make the right decisions in our lives and do the godly things. And with that in mind, I want us to back up to verse 2 in chapter 8 and just read this account of what just occurred, because this is why he said this to them. He had just given them an example. So John chapter 8, verses 2 through, we're actually going to read down through 8. Now early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in adultery, and when they had set her in the midst, they said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in adultery, in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what do you say? This they said, testing him, that they might have something of which to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger, as though he did not hear. So when they continued asking him, he raised himself up and said to them, He who is without sin among you, let him throw a stone at her first. Or I think the way we think of it is more from the King James Version, where it says, throw the first stone, right? But again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Now here Jesus is shining his light on this matter, and it sometimes it may seem odd to us, but he's using his wisdom and his mercy. He gave them an answer that would make an honest person examine themselves. And you'll notice at first he really ignored them, kind of ignoring them. You might think about it when you come to somebody like that and they ignore you, it kind of puts you off a little bit. It kind of makes you think about what you're doing. And then he gives them this answer that really makes them examine themselves, right? So he shows in the answer he gives, he shows that we are not worthy of condemning another person. We just are not. None of us should be in that business of condemning another person. Instead, Jesus encourages compassion and forgiveness. He will judge when the time is right, as we've been studying our class. He will judge at the right time, at the appropriate time. Jesus will bring judgment. Now notice that Jesus convicted them so simply and easily. If we read this verse, then those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. So his light revealed an unpleasant truth in themselves. They were also sinners. And it's probably truth they did not want to hear and truth they did not want to see. But it was truth they needed to see. And his light revealed that. And this is like so many of us. We want to see the truth in others. We don't always want to see it in ourselves. And I can be as guilty of that as anybody. I just, be honest. But these men were actually honest enough to see those faults and flaws, those wrong things in themselves, and walk away. So Jesus prevailed with wisdom and mercy and compassion. And then let's see one last thing in the next verses here. In verses 10 and 11. When Jesus had raised himself up and saw no one but the woman, he said to her, "Woman, where are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Notice that Jesus did not condone her sin. He didn't promote it, and he didn't tell her it's fine, just keep going and doing that. He didn't say it was okay. He said, go and sin no more. Many today, even Christians, think that we should condone sin, that we should promote certain sin as acceptable. We can't do that. Because Jesus is forgiving and compassionate and mercy, they kind of misunderstand. They're right. Jesus is all those things. He is forgiving. He's compassionate. He shows mercy. But he does not condone or promote sin because he knows what sin does to us and he knows where it takes us, and he doesn't want that for us. And that is true compassion. So coming back to this verse, this is one example of how Jesus changes us. He gives us his light so that we can see clearly in our lives as we go through our lives, so that we can understand that with love and compassion and mercy, also truth must come with that. Truth must be given. The light always shows the truth, especially the Lord's light. Now we know that we've all sinned and none of us are perfect. And this evening, if anyone needs that light that only the Lord can provide, if you need to be free of the darkness, if you need to hear Jesus say, "Neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more," please come forward as we stand and sing. We're going to sing 330, Just As I Am. 330, first and last.